Your fold's hinge is the most expensive part of the phone, and most kickstand cases put zero protection where it actually bends. One wrong angle on a table, and that crease you paid a fortune to avoid gets a lot worse, a lot faster. We're not ranking these by how many angles the stand locks into. We're ranking by what happens to the hinge itself when the case is propped up, folded flat, or knocked sideways on a desk, because that's the part Samsung can't replace cheap. 6 kickstand cases made the cut. I'll show you which one actually protects the fold while it's standing up. But first, the ones that get the basics right and still leave something on the table. Pick 6. NINKI Invisible Kickstand Magnetic Case. We're starting with a case that nails the concept but skips the details that matter once you actually use it daily. The NINKI Invisible Kickstand Case uses a translucent back panel that flips out into a stand, which is the whole appeal here. You get to show off the phone's design instead of hiding it under opaque plastic, and the kickstand tucks away flush when you're not using it, so there's no permanent bump riding around in your bag. The build leans on raised edges around the screen and camera to keep both off the table when the phone is lying face down. Plus, what NINKI calls quad-reinforced corners for shock absorption. That's a sensible layout for a foldable. Corners take the brunt of most drops, and keeping the raised lip consistent around the outer screen matters more here than on a slab phone, since the fold's cover screen is smaller and closer to the edge. Verdict: fine as an inexpensive, good-looking entry point if you mainly want the kickstand function and don't need documented drop protection. Buyers chasing verified toughness should keep moving down this list. If you want that same magnetic snap-fit feeling, but backed by an actual published drop spec, the next case swaps unverified marketing language for a documented MIL-grade claim and adds real bezel measurements. Pick 5. TORRAS Q3 Spin. TORRAS built the Q3 Spin around a 360-degree magnetic stand, and unlike the NINKI pick, they publish actual numbers for the parts that matter. The raised bezel clearance is 2.0 mm over the screen and 0.8 mm over the camera, enough that this case can sit face down without either surface touching the table, and enough headroom that most tempered glass screen protectors should clear the inner lip without lifting at the corners. If you've had a case push up a glass protector before, that clearance figure is the number to actually pay attention to, not just raised edges as a vague selling point. TORRAS calls this 4 times mil-grade drop protection, built on what they describe as X-Shock 3-layer cushioning in the bumpers. That's a brand-stated figure, not an independently verified certification. TORRAS doesn't cite a third-party lab or a specific MIL-STD number on this listing, so treat 4X as a comparative marketing claim rather than a lab result. The hinge gets its own shockproof cover that moves with the phone from folded to open, which is the feature that actually separates a real foldable case from a slab case with a fold cut into it. A lot of budget cases leave this exact seam exposed. Verdict: a genuine step up in documented protection and screen protector clearance over the NINKI pick, with the grip versus pocket trade-off as the one thing to know going in. This next pick solves the exposed hinge problem completely differently. Instead of a cover that moves with the fold, it builds a dedicated shield around it, and it's also the only case on this list made exclusively for this phone, with no shared listing for an older model. Pick 4. Fence's 360 Magnetic Kickstand. Fence's listing states this case is built only for the Galaxy Z Fold 8 Ultra. It explicitly won't fit other models, which sounds like a small thing until you remember how often case brands reuse a listing across 2 or 3 phone generations and hope the fit is close enough. That kind of specificity matters more on a foldable, where a ½ millimeter of misalignment around the hinge can mean the case actually interferes with folding instead of protecting it. The hinge gets a dedicated cover, not shared with a wraparound bumper, but its own distinct piece designed specifically to guard the folding seam against scratches and daily wear. Fences rates the overall case at 20 feet of what they call military-grade drop protection. As with TORRAS, that's a brand-published figure without a cited third-party certification body attached, so file it as a strong internal test claim rather than a verified independent rating. Smooth back panel. A reasonable answer to the pocket versus grip trade-off, since smooth backs slide into pockets easily, but tend to slide right off an angled car dash or a tilted desk. The catch worth flagging: because the hinge cover and ring stand both add material right at the fold line, this is a noticeably thicker case in hand than the NINKI or TORRAS picks. You're trading slimness for that dedicated hinge shield. If pocket bulk on an already large foldable is a deal breaker for you, that's the honest cost here. Test claim: mic muffle. Insert test result: no change, audible muffling on calls. Verdict: the most phone-specific fit, and the most dedicated hinge coverage so far, at the cost of added thickness. If bulk from a ring-style stand isn't for you, the next case keeps the magnetic strength, but goes back to a flip-out panel design that folds flatter against the phone. Pick 3. OWKEY Magnetic Adjustable Stand. OWKEY's approach is an integrated, foldable stand panel rather than a ring. It flips out for vertical or horizontal viewing and then retracts flush into the case when you're done, so you're not carrying a permanent metal loop on the back of the phone all day. That's a meaningful difference if you find rings snag on bag pockets or scratch tabletops when the phone is lying flat and the ring isn't fully collapsed. The magnets here are rated N55, which is a stronger magnet grade than the more common N52 used in a lot of competing cases. N55 magnets are physically denser and hold more pull for a given size, though OWKEY doesn't publish an actual holding force figure in grams or newtons for this case, so we can only compare magnet grade, not a measured pull strength number, against cases like the SUPCASE pick coming up. Don't read N55 as automatically stronger in practice than a case that publishes a verified 1,500 grams figure. Grade and measured output aren't the same claim, and only the published number should be trusted as fact. The trade-off. A flip panel stand that retracts flush is mechanically simpler than a rotating ring, which usually means fewer viewing angles once it's deployed. You're typically choosing between 1 or 2 fixed positions, rather than a full 360-degree range. If you regularly prop your phone at odd angles for video calls in bed or on an armrest, that's the flexibility you're giving up for the slimmer profile. Test claim. Table wobble. Insert test result. Sits flush/rocks on camera bump. Verdict. The slimmest kickstand design on this list so far, with the fewest stand angles too. Before we get to the last two, here's the pattern interrupt. Every case so far has made you choose between hinge coverage, stand flexibility, and slim profile. Pick 2. The final 2 cases are the ones that stopped forcing that trade-off, and they're the only 2 on this list with a manufacturer-published, independently citable spec sheet instead of just marketing copy on an Amazon listing. Pick 2. SUPCASE UB Grip. This is where the spec sheet stops being vague. SUPCASE's own product page states this case is drop-tested from 15 feet and certified to MIL-STD-810H-516.8. That's an actual military testing standard number, not a generic military-grade phrase, which puts it in a different category of claim than most of what we've covered so far on this list. It's worth being precise about what that certification does and doesn't mean. MIL-STD-810H-516.8 covers a specific transit drop test method, and SUPCASE states the case meets it. That's the brand's own testing claim on its spec sheet, and I haven't seen it independently re-verified by a third-party lab outside SUPCASE. The magnet system is the most specific on this list. An embedded N52 ring rated at 1,500 grams of pull force for MagSafe-style chargers, mounts, and wallets. An actual published gram figure rather than just a magnet grade, which makes it the one case here where a real number is available to compare against grade-only claims like OWKEY's N55 rating. Screen protection is a genuine differentiator too. SUPCASE includes 2 built-in 9H tempered glass protectors that switch between clear and privacy modes, both rated at 95% or higher light transmittance per the spec sheet. That directly solves the lip conflict problem we opened with. Since the glass ships pre-fitted to the case's inner lip by the manufacturer, there's no separate third-party protector fighting for clearance against the case edge. The kickstand is a 2-in-1 metal ring that doubles as a grip and a hands-free stand, and the hinge gets full coverage plus 4-corner airbag cushioning. Verdict: the most thoroughly documented case on this list, with real numbers instead of marketing adjectives, at the cost of bulk. Pick 1. Spigen Slim Armor Pro S MagFit. Spigen closes this list with the case that answers the hinge question the way we opened this video. Instead of a cover that wraps around the fold as an afterthought, the hinge protection is engineered with semi-auto sliding hinge technology paired with Spigen's SecuLink system, which uses a heat-treated steel pin to interlock the front and back panels. Spigen states this has been validated through over 100,000 folding cycles, specifically because loosening at the hinge seam is the most common failure point on cheaper fold cases over time, not just on day one out of the box. One important flag before you buy. I could not independently confirm this exact Amazon listing against Spigen's own site down to the letter. Spigen sells several similarly named MagFit cases for this phone: Slim Armor Pro, Slim Armor Pro S, Tough Armor Pro, Optic Armor Pro. And only the Slim Armor Pro S and Optic Armor Pro versions are confirmed by Spigen to include a built-in kickstand. The plain Slim Armor Pro and Tough Armor Pro do not. Double-check the exact listing title against Slim Armor Pro S before you buy if the kickstand is the reason you're choosing this case. Also worth noting, because the hinge cover on this design is more integrated, Spigen states some MagFit accessories may not seat properly due to the hinge housing, so check accessory compatibility before assuming every MagFit mount will work. Verdict: the only case here that gives you real hinge engineering, a full rotating stand, and a slim build all at once. With one listing detail, you should verify yourself before checkout. Closing recap. If you're running a glass screen protector and worried about lip clearance, the TORRAS Q3 Spin publishes actual bezel numbers to check against your protector. If you want the most documented protection package with real certification and magnet numbers, it's the SUPCASE UB Grip. If slim profile matters as much as hinge durability, the Spigen Slim Armor Pro S MagFit is the one built specifically to avoid that trade-off. Just confirm the exact listing before you buy. And if you just want an affordable kickstand case without chasing spec sheets, the NINKI pick gets the basics done. Links to every case on this list are below in the order we covered them. Let me know in the comments which one you're going with once your Fold 8 Ultra actually arrives.